We don't know it. You, buddy, what's your name?
Ken.
Stan. Oh, see? I just kicked Stan. Calm down, Sean. Don't tell me to calm down. Nobody tells me that I don't know controversy. You gotta be... I don't know if that's
useful,
but it sure as hell is funny.
Look, we all know that Zangief's V-Skill 2 and V-Trigger 2 are not exactly the most viable or competitive of his options. V-Skill 1 and V-Trigger 1 both shore up a lot of Zangief's weaknesses, especially against zoner characters that want to poke. But I've played basically exclusively V-Skill and V-Trigger 2, and there's a lot of interesting synergies, there's a lot of surprise factor with how they're used. And I wanted to put this video together to show some of the interesting little tricks that you can do with it. Because even good players can fall for these periodically. And sometimes you just want to kick people in the face. Let's start with some of the basic mechanics of it. V-Skill 2 functions a lot like how focus attacks did in Street Fighter 4. When you begin the V-Skill, you can hold it down. If you let it go immediately, it'll send a kick out, it'll do some damage. If you hold it longer, he'll continue to stomp his foot. If you fully charge it, it will cause a wall bounce, which you can do some combo stuff off of. Or if they're guarding, it'll do a guard break, which there's not a ton of follow-ups for, but it's still relevant in a few situations. It is worth noting that unless you do a fully charged version of it, the damage is going to be the same regardless if he does 1 or 2 stomps. So letting it go early and letting it go like at the midpoint is about comparable, with the exception of timing changes for mind game purposes. But either on hit or on block, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with it. When you space it out, it's -4, but is still relatively safe because there are not a lot of buttons that'll reach far enough, because the kick goes a lot further than a lot of people might think. Similar to a focus attack from Street Fighter 4, you can dash forward out of it, you can dash backwards out of it. If you're feeling very bold, you can dash forward out of it, go for a command grab. Dash forward out of it, you can try to do a super. It's a lot slower than if you were trying to do it in Street Fighter 4, but against scared opponents, that is a decent option. But the general game plan with Zangief's V-Skill 2 is you want to keep pressuring with it and pushing them into the corner. As long as you can keep pressuring with it, with the exception of against multi-hitting attacks, which we'll talk about a little later, if you can corner them with it, like, that's exactly what Zangief wants. You just keep pushing them back, and if you start charging it while they're within range of it, they actually cannot walk backwards. They're stuck in a blocking animation, expecting the attack to come. So a lot of them will backwards jump, which then gives you an opportunity to keep pushing forward. And Zangief is somewhat unique in that his biggest anti-air tool, which is his lariat, hits on both sides of him. So once you have somebody cornered, it's very hard to jump over him and get out of there. Because if you get lariated on the far side of him, trying to do like a cross-up or something, he can just hop right back over and put you in the corner again. So Zangief's biggest threat is putting you in the corner, and V-Skill 2 helps you with that. So you've hit a V-Skill, what can you do off of that? Without full super meter or V-bar, it's kind of limited. Usually you can get like a crouching jab. Sometimes, depending on spacing, you can get a few other things. But generally speaking, it's more of a pressure tool to just keep pushing him back. However, if you do have super meter, a landed V-Skill 2 will combo into super when you time it right. It can also be V-trigger canceled into a couple different things. The typical combo is the headbutt into standing light kick into lariat, depending on how you space it. Sometimes you're a little out of range. You can also, for a little bit more damage, but you'd be cashing out the V-bar, is to go like crouching medium punch into EX SPD or regular SPD if you want to. You can also do headbutt into SPD depending on spacing. Those are great if you're really trying to close out a round. But the best thing that you're looking for here is the V-skill into super. Another neat little trick with V-skill 2 is even on block it can be very dangerous, because if you just go immediately into super, it's a frame trap. Someone will try to poke you back or do like a 3-frame or something after they've blocked your V-skill 2, and if they do anything but backdash, jump, or V-shift, they're going to eat your super. There's some spacings that doesn't work, but for a lot of them it does. And if you keep doing V-skills throughout a match, you condition your opponent that, all right, I need to block, I need to keep or try to counter poke or something like that. But it's a great way to trick an opponent, especially in like a round 2 situation where they've not seen that yet. You can also on block, if you V-trigger, then you can make it safe, and it creates a 50-50 scenario. If you've blocked my V-skill 2 and I activate the install V-trigger 2, am I going to walk up and SPD you immediately as soon as you're out of block stun, or am I going to walk up and headbutt into standing light kick and a lariat? Like it creates kind of just a 50-50 where they're going to eat something if they guess wrong, because you're so plus after that V-trigger cancel.
Ready. Engage.
So we've talked a lot about the strengths of V-skill 2 being that it's a lot more aggressive. You can use it to counter poke really well. You push people into the corner with it. You can dash out of it into command grabs, into supers. You can combo into super, all that fun stuff. However, it definitely has some drawbacks as well. Unlike V-skill 1, it only has 1 hit of armor. V-skill 1 has 2 hits of armor and a lot more when you have V-trigger active, which can make multi-hitting moves a major nuisance with V-skill 2. Things like EX fireballs, things like Ryu's forward heavy punch, Balrog's V-skill 2 making dash punch hit 3 times, Chun-Li and Sagat both have multi-hitting moves, Ed mashing on jab can do that. It can be a bit frustrating to deal with. Another thing worth noting is that it does nothing to help with the poking issues that Zangief has with projectile-based characters. It comes out a lot slower. The armor starts up slower than V-skill 1, which can just be flexed and then you're done with it immediately. So it is less useful against characters that are trying to keep full screen away from you. And of course, V-trigger 1 is way better at dealing with fireball characters as well. Just in general, V-skill 1 has a lot more applications, but because it's so much more common than V-skill 2, people know to expect it. People know how to deal with it. People know what to do to get around it. V-skill 2 is so uncommon that even good players mess up a couple times in the first couple rounds. You can catch a lot of people by surprise with it, and that surprise factor sometimes really can carry you. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a great player, but man, I really like getting carried by this thing. So hopefully this little mini guide has been helpful for you. Any Zangiefs out there that want to try it, I would highly recommend just taking it for a spin, see how it feels. And remember, I'm sorry, I love you.